Cheers!
Hi.
Hello!
Hello.
Oh my gosh, this is like gonna be, there's a lot of new firsts tonight. And I said tonight. So good morning, but we're actually filming in the evening. This is the first time that we're filming in the evening, so it's a little like, we're trying the best to improvise here with the lights, you know, but you can see us both. This is Mafer.
Hi.
And today, I'm like, we're not calling it La Yaki Coffee Chats, it's La Yaki Matcha Chats today. Oops, Anna's not gonna like that. You heard that probably.
Anna's looking at us like she's gonna throw something at her hands.
Okay, so anyways, in honor of this matcha evening with Mafer, oh my god, matcha, Mafer, like.
There we go.
What just happened there?
It pays off to be picky with the food, I guess.
I think so. I didn't know that actually. I was like, wait.
Like that's why I don't drink coffee.
Oh, that's right. That's why we drink. Okay, so yeah, I guess we're going all over the place here. Let's reset here. We are here because it's La Yaki Matcha Chats today because we're having matcha with Mafer, who doesn't drink coffee, but she drinks matcha. But I don't drink matcha, but she does, so we're drinking it. So we're also having matcha together. I'm going to try it for the first time ever.
And we'll see if she actually likes it or not.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I will be honest. I will be honest. And you can talk me off the ledge. You can tell me, you know, why I feel a certain way about it. But I'm also wearing this very green matcha shirt in honor of tonight. Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's cute. I like it.
Thank you. And then it says,
"Be kind."
Be kind. Which she's the first guest here that brought me flowers. She brought us sunflowers. So how cute is that? So all good things. Thank you so much, Mafer, for coming here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
I'm nervous and I'm excited.
Well, you should be excited, and I'm always surprised when I hear people being nervous. No, do not be nervous. This hour together, we're going to be able to talk about mental health and a certain topic that we've decided to talk to. We have agreed on a certain topic, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. But one of the things that I wanted to say was we invited Mafer because Mafer is also, and we'll make sure to have her Instagram and all that good information in the description, but she is also a advocate of mental health and is able to do it to really motivate and inspire people in a very creative way. Oh, my dog's getting in trouble, huh?
No, wait, looking at
she's in trouble, huh?
Oh, baby.
What's she doing?
No, she was literally staring at us in the second row.
Oh, thank you. Our crew is, we have some witnesses, some audience members out here. Charlie, my Boston. So yeah, Mafer is...
I'm dying at the looks. I'm sorry. She's like doing sad. I'm just like, no.
It's okay, Charlie. We're almost. Oh.
It's okay. We're good.
We're good. We're okay. We're okay.
We'll get you something later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Promise. But you can have a seat and listen in, if you'd like.
She doesn't look like she wants to sit down.
I don't think so. So we're just gonna have to. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, we've invited you here because it was so funny. I met you. She's in one of our other interviews that's coming up for When Food and Life Meet Our Vibes Media. But I'm inviting you today because I was like, well, a couple things. I saw that you were into mental health stuff yourself. So I was like, oh, this could be rich. But then also when I met you, I was like, dude, this girl is like, you have opinions, but in a good way. I'm like, damn, this girl like knows things about herself and knows... just very confident, and I think that's something that we always we always talk about here of like what does that look like. And so in talking to you and trying to figure out what do we talk about today, I thought I wanted to talk about how like you found your voice and all this stuff, but you said something so interesting to me. I almost did because I got excited. But you said, well, Jackie, I'm a work in progress, and I was like,
yes,
I like that. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, is what does that look like? What does it mean to be a work in progress? And how does it affect or help you find your voice or help you find your confidence? And what does that all have to do with mental health? So that's what we're going to do today. But before anything else, we're going to try this matcha. Shall we do it?
I've been wanting to.
You're like, come on.
And I'm like,
look how cute she set it all up.
It's looking cute.
Can you tell everybody who you are? I always like to do that. Give a little moment. Tell people who Mafer is.
We're going to put him in the spot, but...
I do that very well, actually. It's a
oh, yeah, it's not the first time, and I always freeze. I'm like, no. What? Like a moment of existential crisis.
Right.
I'm like, she's not that. She's having an existential crisis.
Okay, but let's start with Mafer. So Mafer, is that your real like legal name?
No, it's my nickname. It's
Okay.
short for Maria Fernanda.
Okay.
That's my legal name. I have 2 first names and 2 last names, como buena latina. But people can't pronounce the 2 things, and they're like, let's call you Maria. I'm like, fine. So anyone who knows me from work, it's literally just Maria.
Oh.
If it's friends or family, it's usually Mafer.
Okay. All right, Mafer.
So I was like, I've been like trying to push. I'm like, no, I'm gonna like. I changed it on the preferred name and everything like for school.
Oh, really?
Because it's like I don't feel like Maria. Like, so I'm like,
I like Mafer.
So I'm like, I've been trying to like push myself. So I'm like,
I like it. I like it. Mafer. Well, welcome, Mafer. Let's try this matcha. Cheers to the matcha life.
There we go.
Maybe I need another. I think I need another one. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna do one more. Like, why not?
You didn't like it, huh? You're in full on anyone.
I don't necessarily like it. No. The first sip was like, oh my, those are leaves. Those are straight up leaves, that's what it is, right?
It's literally like green tea leaves. Like you powder them and mix it.
Yeah, so I'm like, wow, that's a plant life. I just walked into a park. I just put my mouth in a park in the grass. But then the next couple sips, I was like, okay, it's like cream. I do like the creaminess of it. And
if you mix it a bit, because this is how some of the cream ups are.
Oh, maybe that'll be a bit better. It's not like terrible, but it's definitely acquired. Like
yeah, it's like if you're not into tea and that kind of stuff, it's too herbal for you.
Oh, okay.
My mom always says it tastes like seaweed.
You want to try it? Yeah, I want to try it. I was gonna say, I liked what you said though. You're like, unlike coffee, you don't have. What did you say? It was like.
It doesn't give you the caffeine crash.
Yeah.
See, I don't like this.
You like? I still want it though. I'm like,
we should be recording.
All right. That's good.
Yeah, it's definitely like what you either like it or you hate it.
You liked it, really? No. You want me to put some in a cup for you? Okay. And something I don't really tell my guests until they don't realize until later. But at any moment, if you want to have a bite of the donut, like feel free. Because everyone like doesn't touch it, and I'm like, you can touch it. Like we've already taken our pictures. Like you're good.
I might in a little bit, because
Okay.
if not, I'm gonna start talking. I'm gonna have my mouth full.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Actually, there was one guest that I realized we had donut holes, so it was easy. That was smart. She just would just pop them in the donut holes. Anyways, so here we are. Thank you for pushing me to try this. It's okay to try new things. I think it's totally fine. And then you find out what you like and what you don't like, right?
This feels so hypercritical for me, because I'm usually like, I'm a picky eater, so I'm like, no, it doesn't look good, it doesn't smell good, I'm not gonna try it.
Pues mira, we talked about like, when I met you, you're like, you really, you just are able to stand up for yourself and just find your voice. And when I was telling you about doing this, and you're like, no, I want to do work in progress. So I know it's like, what a loaded question to be like, what does that mean to you? But I always like to start off very broad, and I think we start to unfold a bunch of other things. So when you think about when you say that about yourself, you're like, well, I'm a work in progress. What comes to mind?
Bit of everything, honestly, because I like usually like confident. Like I'm not confident at all. I will do stuff and I will be like shitting my through the way, and I'm like having a panic internally, but I'm good at keeping the mask on. And then I walk up and I'm like,
you're like, I was scared. Okay. So okay, that's interesting. So when you're like doing something and you have this mask on, or you're just like pumping yourself up, it's like, have you always been that way?
It feels like it. I'm like, I've had anxiety since I can remember, and I always thought it was normal. Like anything in school, and it was like literally like feeling sick to my stomach every time I had something. If I had to do a presentation, I'm like, and everyone's like, oh, you look so calm. And I'm like, I'm literally have my legs shaking right now. Like I'm gonna fall. And I'm like, somehow I'm good to like pretend it, but it's like, nope. Every time, like, something happens, like, I hate conflict, and I'm like, I'm gonna stand up for myself. I'm gonna be terrified every second of it, but I'm gonna try.
Okay, well, think about that though, right? So you've had this anxiety, but you're like, but there's that little fire that you were just talking about, the one where you were just like pumping yourself up right now, where you're like, no, but I'm gonna do it. Like, where does that come from? Because I feel like that's something that, like, I personally have been trying to figure out, because I am a people pleaser. I'm a pushover.
Same.
Like, you're not though, because you do stand up.
I'm telling you, that's the work in progress part. Because it's like I've been in therapy for like the past 3 years now. And it's taking a lot of my therapist calling me out on my BS. And I'm like, okay, fine. And it's like literally like boundaries. So that's that. And it's like, it's been a major change in the past 3 years. And it literally took me, like, I was having panic attacks at least on a weekly basis. And I was like, maybe this isn't normal.
You're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be. Wait, but here's the thing. I always, you laugh about it, but I'm like, I'm always so curious, because I'm like, you said that you most of your life you were used to having this anxiety. So there must have been something where you're like, something. I always feel like there's always something that prompts you to then question and be like, I shouldn't probably be feeling like this all the time. Like, what do you think it was? What do you think about your experience that kind of led you to be like, yeah, I'm going to confront this. I'm going to, like, figure out if maybe I don't have to do this.
I think it was a pandemic, because I was the only one in my household who was still working, because I worked at a pharmacy at that time. So I was literally the only one working at the time. My parents were from being able to like work around their schedule, like not being. We was like everyone was at the house the whole time. I was going out to working at a pharmacy. My dad has heart issues, and obviously like me freaking out like every time he would come in, and like literally like I'm scrubbing out and changing outside of the house, like being scared that I was gonna get them sick or something. And it was like that. It just like in general, I already had my anxiety, and I was also like, well, all this. And obviously my parents didn't have a job at the time because they got laid off with all the stuff. And I'm like, well, there's this and work and then school, and on top of that, like anxiety I already had. And I was like, okay, if I'm like literally having to lock myself at least 2 or 3 times a week in the bathroom to cry it out and have a panic attack, that can't be normal, right? So I went to school, and they were like, oh, like promoting all the mental health stuff, and I was like, we have counselors. So I'm like, cool, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna go. And I'm like freaking out, like in the waiting room. I go in, and they're like, okay, so what brings you here? And I like trauma dump all this, and like, yeah, you have serious issues. Like here's just like, if you're stressed for finals and you don't know how to manage it, you need real help, like we can do that here. And I'm like,
we can't do that here?
Yeah. And I was like, this is like for short-term stuff. And I was like, well, this is great. So I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
And so what did you do then?
What
did you do next?
It took me a few months, and I was like, well, like I started to think about it. I'm like, the therapy, I like tried to figure out like if I could do it through like my insurance. And it was ridiculously expensive. And I was like, okay, so I can't do this one. And I started like looking into it, and I was like, well, probably like someone who's American or who's from here like might not understand all the family dynamics that I have going on. So I was like, maybe if I can find like a Latina therapist, and like if they speak Spanish, that would be great.
Right.
Because the more tired I am, I notice that I start shifting more into my Spanish. Like if I'm tired, my English goes off. It's even happened at work where like people are talking to me and I respond back in Spanish, and I didn't realize that until they're like literally looking at me like,
no way.
And I'm like, what? And they're like, you literally just spoke in Spanish and we don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. So I was like, like in case I freeze or I forget a word, like if they speak Spanish, I can like switch, and that would be great. And then I found my current therapist like on a directory. I emailed a few people, and they was like, okay, so what are you looking? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. This is what happened when I went to school. I don't know. I'm barely starting out on this stuff. So she's like, but do you have any questions? I'm like, I have questions, but I don't know what my questions are going to be, because I don't know what this means.
Right.
So she was like giving me an overview, and like I think it's like cognitive behavioral therapy and all that stuff.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was like, and she's like, and it's good with you. I'll send you homework. I'm like, yes, homework. I like that. Good.
You're like, I can work with that.
Yeah. So like, I'm a big nerd and I love school. So I was like, okay, good. Homework works.
Oh my gosh. It's funny when you were telling me the story earlier or offline. I thought it was so good because I think a lot of people when they are, especially unfortunately when people are working through some mental health challenges, like if they see one sort of obstacle, right? It's like, it's not a good therapist, or in this case, you go for help, and they just tell you like, we can't help you. Like what I love about what you were able to do is you were like, no, I'm gonna still keep moving forward, and I'm gonna figure it out. And I think you underestimate your ability to really be there for yourself, dude. Like, I know you've been doing the therapy, but like, have you taken a chance to like recognize that like that was all you pre-therapy?
This is cracking me up because I literally had a therapy session yesterday, and my therapist is like,
no,
you do realize you need to give yourself more credit for this stuff, right? And I'm like, do I? She's like, yeah. I'm like,
do I?
Yeah, but it feels so uncomfortable.
Why?
Because it's like, I'm like, why am I taking credit for like it's just fixing stuff that I should have fixed like years ago? And it's like, it just feels weird.
There's so many people out there who are very much older and they're not doing that work.
Do not get me started.
You're like, I know, girl. No, but it's so interesting that you're like, no, I'm gonna find somebody that's gonna match your needs. And I love that you're like, right now you're like, you're like, I have questions, I don't know what they are. You're like, yeah, you're like, that's literally what it is. But you're like, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure it out. And I think the willingness to do that is like, that's why I'm like, you say you're a work in progress, but I think you've progressed, there's been progress.
I mean, there's definitely been progress. It's not as far along as I wish it was, but it's still something. It's still baby steps.
Yeah. And so this CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, that's something that I'm also familiar with. There's a great app that I will put in the description of this episode, but it's an app where you wake up in the morning and it's sounds like a song. You wake up in the morning. Anyways, you wake up in the morning
and I step.
I was like, wait, no, that's not it. So you it's crazy. It tells you, how you're feeling. It asks you how are you feeling, and it's very easy to fill out. You're just like,
I'm gonna need you to tell me the app. No, I don't.
Here, let me actually.
I have some for meditation stuff, but not. I didn't know that one.
So check it out. So if I were to do a journal entry, right? So if I want to do one for today, I think I have to wait. So for the first question it says is how are you feeling, and it has these smiley faces, are you feeling super sad?
I think we should record it with my phone so that way if you want to put it on top of the screen.
Oh yeah, sure. We're gonna do it together.
I know. There we go.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, how are you feeling today?
I think I'm at the green one.
Okay, so that's you're feeling good.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it's interesting. It says, what emotions, and that's the biggest thing I want to talk to you too about emotions today. So to ask you, what emotions are you experiencing today? And what I love about it is that it gives you can do both. You can do negative and positive. Because you can feel two of the things at the same time, and that's okay.
That's interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, so we'll start with the negative. Why not?
Oh my goodness.
So there's feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, annoyed, guilty, disappointed, lonely, tired, empty, hopeless, worried, sad. Anything jump out to you?
Nervous.
Okay, nervous.
And I was tired earlier.
Tired, okay.
I was literally falling asleep
that's good. That's it? Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. Okay, and then go to positive. So motivated, excited, inspired, grateful, fulfilled, loved, calm, relieved. Oh, motivated? Okay, I like that.
I guess because I'm here.
Oh, inspired. Yeah. Oh, excited. Cool.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Grateful. So now you've assessed your emotions, negative or positive. And then they're saying, what is it that's contributing to making it good? So there's different buckets in your life. So either it's family, friends, love, work, school, sleep, exercise, food, relaxing, your screen time, gaming, travel, hobby, and shopping. All right, friends, cute.
I think that's it.
That's good. Okay, so next. So now it's you get to title your day, So we can call it matcha chat.
There you go.
But what's cool about it is now you've kind of processed your emotions and you're understanding where those emotions are coming from. Even the bad ones, right? The negative, the good. And you get to detail what it is.
I'm sorry. She looks so good.
You're obsessed with my dog, huh? A little bit, yeah.
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 On the go way.
Most people are with Charlie. And then you write details. So in this case, and then it helps you. It even prompts you like, I feel good because, or I feel nervous
because. That's good, because it's like if you're stuck and you don't know where to start.
You don't know where to start. And so you say it, right? And so you blah, blah, blah. So anyways, you do it. And then like for me, I can go back to all my entries, which I haven't done in a while, so don't tell anybody right now. But I can tell you, so it's all the green. So if I go back to last year, when I first started all this, so I was pretty not okay, and then really not okay, and then not okay, and then that's when I quit my job, and then I started to get good. Anyways, and then I just forgot, I didn't do it as much.
And it's like if you forget about it in a good way, that's good.
Yeah. But it really puts into frame like your emotions and how much they can take over and consume you. And
I'm gonna need to download that thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this idea of emotions for you, we have a wide range of emotions. Did you know that?
I would think so.
Oh. But growing up, I feel like it was like you're happy or you're mad and you're angry and that's it. Like there's nothing in between. You're not allowed to feel anything. And for me, what I've learned through therapy is that like it's okay to feel all of these feelings, even the negative and positive. Like that is the human experience.
Yes.
And I don't know. What are your thoughts about?
Because that's how I'm like, it makes sense. It's like something that I've also like through therapy and stuff. And it's like, okay, like growing up for me, it was like, you have to be happy, and if you're not, well, why are you being ungrateful for all this stuff? And if you're mad, well, what do you have to be mad about? Why are you nervous? Like, you don't do anything, you're just a child, so what do you have to be like worried about? And it's like, okay, so all this stuff is just getting buried and like, thrown to the side until I don't think about it, which is then is when the panic attacks come. And it's like, now it's like, okay, I'm mad, why? And I'm like, literally have like, I'm like, this is right now. I was like, I had an argument with my boyfriend a few weeks ago, and I was just so freaking pissed. And it was like, and he knows. And I was like, and the days passed, and I was still feeling upset. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, you're screwed, because next time we like see each other, I'm literally bringing a notebook with notes on why I was mad. And he's like, oh Lord, like it's happened before, and he's just like, and I'm like, okay, why? Until I get to the root, and I'm like, oh crap. And I'm like, no, like good thing I actually have a therapy session before, because that way I can talk about it with a therapist, debrief, and then go at it like a little more calm.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you're getting the tools, like literally, like you're getting the tools, you're processing. I love that you have your notebook and you're processing and you're trying to get to the bottom of like why, what's like, and what is seeding these feelings and like why. And I love how you're like, yeah, I'm prepared for my therapy session. And I think like that's true. It's a true thing. Like therapy, of course, I wish it was more accessible, right? But once you are able to find the right resource, like you mentioned your boyfriend, it's like, it's important that you have a therapist, you have a professional who's helping you through these things, because I think also when you're in a relationship, like, you can't put everything on your partner, right? You need, I think that's something that I also learned. Is finding, when to find help, and I think people are scared to do it, but it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
But like once you take that first step, it's like, oh, it's not as scary as I thought it was. It is scary regardless.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, like admitting that you need help, but also being vulnerable enough to like you're literally dumping your whole life story to a stranger in hopes that they will help you.
Yeah. What helped you like navigate that of like being vulnerable with a stranger? Like what helped you?
It was more of like, okay, like if they can't help me if I'm not being completely honest about what's going on. And it took me a beat, and she's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And I like, the more like the session goes, and I was like, actually, she's like, but I thought you said you were good. And I'm like, and I'm like,
she got you.
And I was like, because I'm like, I don't want like, and it's something like, I'm like with my intrusive thoughts, and I'm like, it's like, sometimes it's just my intrusive thoughts that have just been plaguing me that whole week. Doesn't mean I'm gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
But it's like I know that usually if I touch someone, like they will freak out and like see me step from going crazy.
Yeah.
And in theory, like that's why I'm going to therapy, so they see what's going on and why I'm struggling, so they can help.
Yeah.
But if I'm putting up this mask where I'm pretending to be fine, like how can the therapist do her job? And also, why am I putting money into it? if I'm not like taking full advantage of that resource.
Absolutely. And it's funny. I was also very skeptical at first too. You're like, oh, like the stranger, how are they gonna help me? Mm-hmm. But there comes a moment where you said the word. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be like, well, I'm gonna try to trust the system or what's been advised, and I'm just gonna be truthful and honest and see what happens. And then once you start doing that, it's like, oh wow, like things start to happen and they really start to help you because how can they help you? I have
a question for you.
Oh, please do. Please do. Let's do it. Have it? Oh my God.
So was it you being skeptical about it because just, like how is a stranger going to help? Or is it more of the like all the baggage relating to mental health that comes from being Latina?
That's a good question. I think it definitely is a mixture of both, It did help me, I will say. It did help me that I felt like I was that person in my family where it was like, this is what I say now, but I'll tell you what I used to say. But I feel like I'm very in tune with my emotions. Like I feel a lot of different things. And my family, I'm used to being told, like growing up saying like, you're very sensitive.
That is literally what I grew up listening to. And like, and it pisses me off so much.
It's like, and so Anna, being the amazing partner that I have, has introduced, which we're actually going to do a coffee chat in a few weeks. So I'm doing it with a therapist about the power of language. Mm-hmm. And so she told me, she's like, Anna's like, it's not that you're sensitive. She's like, you're just very in tune with your emotions.
And even if you are sensitive, why is that a bad thing?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like being sensitive means that you are sensible, that you feel things. And like you said, it's not a bad thing. So, but even saying like you're sensitive means
the negative connotation. It's such a load of work that they're just throwing around for so long. They're like immediately like,
it's like saying you're human and be like, yes, thank you, I am human. Thank you for observing something that is
exactly.
It's like what? So I think like being sensitive. I like that. Maybe taking it back, right? Being like, I'm sensitive. Is it did help me to be a little bit not totally trusting like what was imposed on me with my family and stuff, because I'm like, you know what, like if they don't talk about their emotions, that's fine, but I want to get to the bottom of it. And that's interesting, that question though, because now I'm starting to think of like, what was it? I will say this, I have a really great group of friends who also have played a role actually in telling me like, hey, like you should probably look into therapy, so that was the driving force, because I was scared of like, you said like, are they going to be, is my family going to be skeptical about me like doing this, like, oh, Jackie doing this? And the other thing, I
have a story on that, and I'll tell you a little bit.
And the other thing that you said was I didn't know if it was going to solve all my problems. Like I was a little trepidatious of like, is this really going to help? Is this really going to help me? And I've already said this before on one of my videos, but I'll say it again here, is I had one of my friends who was like, I think you should look into therapy. She told me, she's like, Jackie, you're going to find out who you really are. And I was like, girl, I know who I am. What do you mean I'm going to find out who I am? Like, girl, like, okay. I was like, okay. Like, it felt such like a foreign statement. It was just like, what? That is a bunch of hokey.
And it sounds weird, like, but it's literally like you do find out who you are, but it's like you behind all the stuff that has been thrown to you, and you're realizing
so much. It's like you didn't realize how much you could. It was. I just had a moment right now. I was like, oh my God, I'm thinking about the older version of me. I guess in this case, younger version, whatever, however you want to see it. But I'm just like, yeah, that's true. Because I'm like, no, I didn't. I really know who I am now. Like I really know. Like I could really say that. And the thing is, I thought I was like this one-dimensional human, and now I'm like, holy, like I'm a fully multi-dimensional person, and it's like it's very empowering, and it helps. I think that helps my work in progress. Progress is like knowing that about myself, like knowing that much about myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Sometimes
really does.
I talk and I'm about this stuff. This matcha, man, I just.
It's a caffeine.
Yeah, it's a caffeine. But yeah, it makes sense to you? That makes sense to you?
It really does. It's something that I've encountered too. It's like all this, it sounds weird, like kind of like old prejudice and old expectations that your family throws on and the world around you and all this other stuff. And you're like, okay, well, yes, this shaped who I am now, but like deep down and taking all that, what parts are what I genuinely feel versus what are the things that I've been taught that I need to feel because this is what the world expects of you.
Love that. I love that.
Is that something like you were saying, like the expectation of the family? It cracked me up because I had my first couple like sessions like literally like super early in the morning, like trying to like pretend I was still asleep and like whatever at the house because that was in the pandemic and they were all through Zoom.
Oh my gosh, girl.
So it was like literally in one of those, it had to be a little late and my mom woke up and I was like setting up my computer and stuff.
Oh gosh! Did she know you were doing it? She didn't know you were doing it.
No one at the house did.
Because
my mom is not against like psychologists, but it's just there's just some family drama and family history and that it's like okay, like she is a little about it. Okay. And my dad has always been like, well, I don't believe in psychology. I'm like, not a religion, dude. It's not something you believe in, but go off.
It's not a religion, dude.
Seriously, because I'm like, it's not a religion. Like, you're not gonna go like light the candle. So why? Like, it doesn't make sense. But okay, whatever. And I've always been like the sensitive one, like one that cries at everything, and I'll just like since I was a kid, I was like, I knew that if they found out, it was just gonna be drama. So I had like kept it like to myself for a couple of sessions already, and and my mom woke up early, and I'm like, crap, and I hear her. She comes in, she opens the door, and I'm like, she's like, oh, you're awake, gonna have breakfast. I'm like, I actually have something that I'm like, and she's like, do you have class? I'm like, no. She's like, what do you have? And like, an appointment for what? And
oh my god.
I'm like, just an appointment, Mom. It's gonna be in like 2 minutes. But like, I have therapy. Get out. She's like, therapy for what? I'm like, good.
Oh my god. I'm like, perfect timing, y'all.
I know.
I need your help. This just happened.
I know. And I was like,
gosh,
oh god,
dude.
And I was like in the middle of the session, and she would like open because my room at the time. We like the house we lived in. It was an actual room. It's kind of like those second living rooms that have two entrances.
Yeah.
So it's like from one side, my brother would always like barge in to go through the kitchen through my room instead of going around. And from the other side, my mom was like open the door and like, "Are you still like?"
Oh my god!
And I'm like, and my mom was in the kitchen, which was like right next to my room. So it's like, I'm trying to
like
talk,
whispering,
and she was like, my mom was like, why are you being so quiet? Why are you whispering?
Oh
I'm like,
my god!
Like, because you're here.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, look. And she was like, well, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, have you looked around the people we live? Ma'am.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I was like, and I kept it quiet for quite a bit.
Jeez.
So it's like, okay, my mom only knew.
So yeah, did she after that? Did she like sit with you and be like, what? Why are you doing this? Like,
yeah, and I was like, well, you know, like sometimes she's like, why are you anxious about it? I'm like, oh, here we go. Like this is why I'm going to therapy. And she's like, why? And like, but it's like, but I feel the same way. I feel that too. And I'm like, if you're feeling that, you should be going to therapy too, ma'am. And she was like, no, but everyone does. I'm like, no, this is not normal. And sometimes like I'll bring up, so she's like, but I feel that way too. And I'm like, you're not going to therapy is why you need to go.
Oh my god, girl. That's quite a story. That's actually quite a story. You know, it's funny you said earlier, you're like, I wish, like this work in progress, you're like, I wish I was even further along. So I wanted to pick your brain about that. I wanted to dissect that a little more because it's interesting, like it's something that I definitely can relate to as far as like saying should like when am I gonna, and this definitely has crossed my mind in the last 6 months. It's like, when am I gonna be like okay, you know what I mean? Like have you asked yourself that too? You're like, when am I gonna be like okay?
It's like if you're going to the doctor, you're like, okay, when do you get like the release?
When do you get released?
Like when are you
discharged or whatever?
Good. And that is something that I thought about because I remember like being like about a year in therapy, and my therapist was like, I think you're doing good. I'm like, you know, if at some point you want to stop therapy, you can let me know. And I'm like, please don't. No, I cannot. And I was like, I am not.
It's a real thing. Thank you for being honest about this. It's a real thing. Like,
yes, I was like no.
It's a situation, you know, you're like attached and it's a thing. So
it is, because it's like part of it, like it's nice to like be able to tell someone stuff and they're like, yeah, it is okay that you're feeling that way. Like, you're justified. And like, so I'm not being crazy. It's like obviously whichever way we're feeling doesn't necessarily mean that you get to take it out on everyone, because we all have to be responsible for our emotions and how we are being towards others as well. But it's like, okay, so I'm not crazy for feeling this way.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, sometimes it's just like literally someone's like, oh, you're good. I'm like, just trust me. It's been like a good month. Something is gonna come soon, and everything's gonna go crash and burn. You'll see. And I was like, and the next question is like, guess what? And she was like, something happened. I'm like, yes. It's like, I've always like good couple sessions and something big's gonna happen, and I'm like, I know.
You know, that's why I think I totally relate to it, and I think what's helped me to kind of like work through that is two things. Like the word tools, like knowing that, like one of my friends, this friend that told me about, you're gonna know who you are, like, dude, she's amazing. I'll have to bring her on. But she told me, I think it was earlier this year, she's like, Jackie, like, girl, she's like, go to the garage and get your toolbox. You have it now. Like, don't be, basically don't be lazy in that sense for me. So again, in my experience, for me, that resonated with me, because I was like, that's true. It's like, dude, like I've put in the work, like I can do this. And it was those reminders, of like, yeah, like I do have it, and I just gotta go to the garage, and get the toolbox. And that really helped me at the beginning of this year to be like, yeah, like I see doing herramientas, no? So it's like I can do this. And the other thing I was gonna tell you was like, I think I've identified, and I don't know if you've identified that for yourself, but I'm like, there are two things that I feel like really are like keep me in check with how I am, is when I am making an active conscious decision to like be very present in my life, in my moments with my family and my friends, and things that I honestly, looking back, I'm like, I don't know how much, because of my anxiety and everything, I don't know how much I was always thinking ahead, and the other thing was like my guardrails are being present and then being grateful. And these things sound so cheesy as I'm saying them to you right now. Yeah. But I can't tell you, I can't tell you how like important it is for me to be like, oh man, like I actually feel that gratitude. I feel and I understand how lucky I am for what I have, and not, and I don't know, like those are the things that I've come to terms with, where I'm like, this stuff really, it's like, they're my tools, and they've helped me so much with my emotions and with my anxiety and everything that comes my way. So is there something that for you that helps you in this work in progress to be like, I have these tools that have really been helpful?
Definitely the toolbox, like metaphor works and resonates, but it's like, it depends, because there's sometimes it's like, okay, are you being lazy and you don't want to go get it, or is it you're burned out and at this point going to get a toolbox is just too much for what you're going on right now?
Yes.
Because sometimes it's like, I'm like, I could be dealing with this better, and I just don't want to, because I'm just pissed off or tired of being petty. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, okay, and I can tell like how derailed I am, like on my mental health journey based on how I'm feeling. It's like, okay, if I'm getting to the point where I'm disassociating, even when I'm driving, that's when I'm like, yeah, you need to do something.
Can you explain to everybody what disassociating is, please?
How do I explain it? Like, for me, it's more of like I completely like blank out and kind of like, it's like I'm doing stuff on autopilot. But it's like, whether it's something good or bad, I don't feel it. It's just going through the motions, because it's muscle memory. And like, depending on what's going on, like sometimes I'm literally driving and I'm like, I'll get to work, and I was like, wait a second.
How did I get here?
No, and I was like, when did I change freeways? Because I have to take 3 freeways to get to work. And I'm like, and I'm like, and I'm driving like this. And like, we usually try to keep like my routine somewhat structured. And I was like, okay, so if it gets to that point where I'm feeling like crap, I'm getting migraines because I'm not drinking enough water, and I'm forgetting to eat to the point where I have to start setting alarms. I'm like, hey, I'll go eat something, because if not, I won't remember. It's like, okay, at this point, I have my toolbox, and if I don't have the energy to go get it from the garage, it's like reaching out to my support network and being like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you please keep me in check? And sometimes it's a lot to ask of someone, because it's like, we're all at well, not all, but like we're mostly adults. So it's like
Yeah.
we should be able to keep ourselves like in check at that point. But it's also good to recognize that sometimes you just really need someone to be there, or at least remind you. So it's like my boyfriend is really good at that. He's like, "Hey, have you had water today?" And I'm like, "No." And now like, does eating ice count? And he's like, "No." Because the thing is, I get anxious and I get like anxious, and I was like, okay, if I'm obviously I'll get like crushed ice because we have like the crushed ice machine at work, and I'll just feel that I'm like just literally eating ice because it calms me down a little. And I was like, I had a cup of ice. He's like, that doesn't count. Like it's we're so fine. I'm like, fine.
Well, I mean, you bring up a really good point. It's like, I do think that like friends and family and community are a form of therapy. They are there for you because you're right. There are moments where it's like you don't have the energy. You can't get your toolbox. You can't go to the garage. Like that's the truth. And it's and it's funny you say that because like when I talked to my friend and she told me that, I was like, I guess it's true. Like I probably was too blinded and too tired, burnt out to see that I had the tool. But because I had my friend, you know, I've cultivated. Knock on wood. I'm like so thankful and grateful to have friends who care about me, who care about my well-being,
and reminded you of it.
Reminded me of that. Yeah. So it's like, dude, like I think. Don't underestimate, you know, reaching out to people, and you're right.
And keeping a good support network.
Yeah, it is important, and then one day, you know, hopefully you can. I try to be like that with friends too, you know, who I know are going through stuff. Like, okay, you know, try to keep it.
Same, and you know what? It's funny because I'm good at doing that, but like when it comes to myself, I will forget to eat if I'm stressed out, and it will be like, oh crap, it's 10 at night, and I haven't had anything since 11 when I had a snack at work, and I'm like, should probably go eat something. And I have like little stuff like I don't have it on right now, but my mom got me like a ring that is also like a little fidget spinner.
Oh, cool!
It's like a little sunflower, and you can spin it, so that way, like if I'm getting anxious and I have a meeting with a client or something at work.
Charlie, I know, I've been looking
so
at
cute.
Oh.
And I was like, I can like literally like spin it, and it's just not as obvious because it's just a ring. Then it looks like I'm fidgeting with it.
Yeah.
Or I have like this cool. one. It's like one of my bracelets.
Okay.
And it's like your anxiety is lying to you.
Oh, I love it.
And I have another one, but I didn't bring it today. I was like that my mom got for me, and I was like, it's one of the quotes from Agent Carter.
What is it?
You're not into Marvel?
What are we talking about right now? What are we talking about?
Marvel.
Oh, Marvel, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agent Carter. So
yeah, like, I know who she is, but I don't know.
She had like a little standalone quote, and this was something like, it was like, I know my worth, it's something like, I know my worth, like I don't, anyone else's opinion doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And my mom got me that one for my birthday, and it has like, just like a message from her engraved inside. It was like, but since I'm wearing like the rose gold today thingy, so I was like, okay, but I'll have it, and I was like, it serves as a physical reminder sometimes.
I love that. And it's funny you talk about we've mentioned anxiety. Yeah, go for it. Yes, you can eat it. We've talked about anxiety a couple times, and I had a great coffee chat with Carly. You should check it out about anxiety. So I'll make sure to put that in the description as well. But you've mentioned that you've suffered with that since you were a kid, and so what is your relationship with it now? How do you view the anxiety in your life?
It's at this point, it's like it's definitely part of me. It's not like something that I feel like I need to be ashamed of or like embarrassed of, because it's just that stigma that it has with mental health. Like, oh, la ropa sucia se lava en casa. You're not going around telling everyone else like airing your dirty laundry. And for me, it's like, no, you know what? I'm like, why? There's nothing wrong with it, and if someone out there is struggling with too, at least I'm being honest. Yeah. And it's like, and it's come up with like conversations stuff at home, and Dad's like, well, I'm not going around and telling all my friends, oh, she has anxiety. I'm like, that's on you. I'm like, I literally posted in my freaking Instagram story.
But I think that goes back to the being, growing up in a Latino household, Latinx household. It's like, yeah, it's like, dude, like, what are they just like so afraid to these emotions? Like, what do you think it is? Like,
something that I see, and it's like something that you hear a lot, like from older generations, especially regarding.
Cheers.
It's like cheers. That you hear more from like, especially the older generation when they're having kids. They're like, oh well, they raised me like that, and I turned out fine. And I'm like, no, sir, you did not turn out fine. But if you want to keep lying to yourself, please go ahead.
It's kind of like pride. some kind of weird pride. Like it's like
pride, but also like accepting that, okay, if you're struggling with this and it has to do with the way that you grew up, it means that you have to stop idolizing your parents by the way like they raised you, because more likely than not there's some of their mistakes that you have repeated, and that means also like shining light on what you're doing and people are just not wanting to see it.
And I think the irony there is like, let's not try to pretend like any of us are perfect, right?
No, of course.
Like, it's okay to, I think it's more brave and more real to admit like your faults, to admit, hey, you know what, like la regué, like this I didn't do right, but you know what,
and it's brave
that's
to
okay.
go and say it, because like I don't know if it's like it happened to you growing up, but it was like my mom's universal language to go literally apologize and like quote unquote apologize. It's like, oh, te traje comida, ya se servía la comida, and I'm like, and when I'm pissed off or like stressed or like just feeling emotional or something, I won't eat because it will make me feel sick. So it was like, I se servía la comida, and I'm like, I'm not hungry, I should get mad at me. But it was like neither of my parents would apologize. It's like, ay hay comida, or like they will bring something, and I was like, and now for me, I'm like, it's scary, and it's like, you know what, but like, it has power, and you know what, going and like after just an argument or just talking to someone, it's like, you know what, yes, I was pissed and all, and I'm justified in having it, but I shouldn't have to handle it that way, and I'm sorry too.
Yeah, it's you know, and I guess all we can do as the next generation is, I mean, I don't know if you're planning to have a family, but I've learned so much, and I'm really thankful that I'm like, because I'm like facing all of this, that I feel like I'm growing and I'm learning, and because let's be real, like, you know, if we have a family, and I know we're not going to be perfect, our kids are going to have the same, they're going to have some comments, you know, and I want to be able to be like, yeah, you know what, you're right, like, you're absolutely right, that did happen, and I should have done that, and have those conversations to heal, you know?
Not just that, but also being like, okay, but if our kids are acknowledging, then they can do better too.
Oh, elaborate.
Like, kind of like this, like similar to what I was saying earlier. So it's like, okay, so if you're saying that you turned out fine, if your parents like either did whatever, like if they yelled at you or spanked you, and you did the same with your kids. So it's not only, if you're admitting that they did it wrong, it means you did wrong too. And then that means you need to take ownership of it and apologize. And if you're not willing to, it's easier to just turn a blind eye. Like, even the like whole like topic of family is rough right now, because it's like we're like not even global warming, but global boiling right now. And I'm like, thank you. And I was even like thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm about to transfer to school, and I'm like. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, hopefully I can transfer it without, knock on wood, like having to get a loan or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, in this economy. And when I was younger, I was like, my mom had me at 24. So when I was younger, I was like probably 16 or 17. I was like, oh, by the time I'm 24, I want to be already 2 years married and have 2 kids. And right now I'm like going towards 26. And I'm like, I can barely keep myself alive.
Dude.
How am I going to kid? I'm like, no.
Dude, yeah, I mean, life, life is so interesting, and it could take you so many different paths. But.
Yes, and it's, you know, like, okay, did I actually want to have kids, and it's something that I feel, or was I just thinking that I wanted because that's all it was expected of me?
Well, here, as you get to really learn who you really are right now, you will find that answer, and it will be clear. I really do believe. I believe that it will be clear to you.
I hope so, because the ambiguity is driving me nuts right now. And
it might take some years. It might take some years too.
And that's how there. I'm already turning 26, and I'm like, I'm gonna be 30. And I'm like,
26. I'm not gonna tell you how old I'm turning. Something in a couple days. That's. Wait, you're turning 26?
Yeah,
or
September. I'm turning September 26.
I'm turning 36, so I'm 10 years older than you, Mafer. Can you believe that?
No, you look good.
You're
Drop the skincare routine.
You're kind. But 10 years ago, man, oof. I'm like, oh man, time flies. But I'll tell you this, like, just keep doing it. Keep working on yourself. Keep, getting to know who you are, getting those tools, building that network of friends who are that support system, and you're on track. You are a work in progress, but you're like on track. Because had I done the work you're doing right now 10 years ago, I probably would have been on track too. But I mean, I am on track, but I would have been on track sooner, maybe.
But that's the thing, like, there's just stuff that we all have to go through in life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you had maybe done it sooner, you wouldn't have learned from some of the other stuff.
That's true. That is true. And that's interesting because, like, that's something that I'm sure a lot of people who have had probably a lot of really hard times, like, I'm sure that's really hard for them to grasp. But I do believe that, I don't know if you've heard this quote where it's like, life happens for you, not to you. Have you heard of this?
No, but it's a good one.
Yeah, like, it's like, okay, what am I going to learn from this? And like, okay, all right, and then just move on, you know. And I think processing, healing, and moving forward.
But how hard is it to move on from it and not let it get to you personally, like with the, like, and this is something more like related to like what we were saying, like earlier about religion. I was listening to like a podcast or something, and it's
you were
like,
listening to who?
To a podcast a while back.
Podcast? Okay.
I can't remember what was it, but they were like, no, it's like it's such, and some stuff is like a such toxic way that sometimes people go through stuff and like within their own religion, there's like, maybe it's because you didn't pray hard enough and that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know how messed up it has to be.
Like, you're bringing up religion. Oh, I don't want to. That is like, you're gonna get me. I'm gonna get furious.
Me too. Trust me.
I don't think I'm like, oh, that's gonna be not a good color. But I think I'll just say this about the religion as a blanket statement. It's like, it can do so much harm, and the irony is that it's supposedly meant to do so much good, and it can do a lot of harm. And I think that I don't have any else. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. But
no, like, I kind of do, and I'm like, I feel like my mom's gonna get mad about it.
Do it, go for it.
Because my mom is like, I was raised Catholic, and like my mom is very like towards religion, and I'm not. Neither is my dad. And I've always been like into mythology and all like this like stuff, and I'm like started like getting like my terror attack, and my mom's like, "So el diablo," and I'm like, "Good, that's good." I'm like, he's more fun, and she gets so mad at me, and like we get into arguments all the freaking time at the dinner table because my mom like it's towards like the Catholic side, and but it's all in good like fun. And my dad and I are always like, yes, the religion has done some good and some stuff, but you do realize that it was literally like built to control the masses and gain power from people by fear. And mom was like, no, but I'm like, it's literally where it would come from, and it's still holding value in so much people. So even though there might be people who are doing it with good intention, it's like the main reason behind it prevails.
Yeah. I mean, Anna and I have had many discussions about how like it's like there's so much fear in what people don't know or don't understand. But I'm like, well, that's why there's education, and you learn and you educate, and then
but
it's
the thing
why
is,
be afraid?
But that's if they're willing to learn though, because sometimes it's easier for them just to like hide in the ignorance and keep being hateful than to be open to hearing from someone else's point of view.
I think so many things are rooted in fear, though, and that ignorance is rooted in fear. But to go back to your, you told me I can wrangle you back, so I'm wrangling.
Yeah, you're good. I was like,
back. So I'm gonna wrangle you back. I'm gonna wrangle you. There was something I was gonna tell you. You asked me. You're like, sometimes it's hard, right? And sure, like I can never speak.
What is? Because we talked about
we talked about how hard it is to move forward and move on from things that have really been challenging, and then people say like, oh, you didn't pray enough, and blah blah blah. So, about that comment, obviously, we can only speak to our own experiences, and what I will say this is like, it's, there's some stuff that like, it's true you can't control. That is true. Let's just say that, right? And so like recently, there was somebody that I came across who's probably 10 or maybe 10 plus years younger than me, right? Somebody that I met who is kind of in a similar situation as I was when I was younger, when I grew up in a Catholic Mexican household, and I didn't want to come out. I want to come out of the closet, and I didn't want to, scared to live my truth. And it was, my 20s were, I would put on a pretty good face, but I was very distraught, and I felt like I never thought I was going to get married. Like, even me talking about having a family, like, I'm excited about it because I've always been so, like, policing myself and, like, being like, no, you're not allowed to have this, and now I get to be like, no, I get to have this, and
I deserve to have it, too.
And I deserve to have it, too, yeah. Thank you. And so I came across this person who then was asking me for advice. And I don't know if this person will be watching this video, but I'm standing there, Mafer, and I'm like, and they're like asking me, they're like, what advice do you have, and this and that, and I'm like getting across to her, and she's just like, thank you so much. And I'm just like standing there, I'm like, holy like for me, that was a very full circle moment because I'm just like, damn, like it was hard. It was hard. But to be standing there and being like, and living in my truth, like finally being here, living my truth openly with my wife, having my family support and working through all that stuff, you know, and being like, and then telling this person that it's, you know, giving them the advice and things that I wish I had somebody helping me out of the way. But I was like, I get to be that person for somebody. I'm like, shit. I'm like, okay. Like, for me, there's those moments in my life where I go, okay, like, it's, you know, the power of your story and the power of every part of your story. I think there is. Again, that's what I've experienced, and I do believe that. But I'm always, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about it?
I think
stuff that's happened to you and your.
Like, I think it's definitely a testament of the work that both of us have done. Because if all the stuff that you went through, and even if like, because you could have like found a way to be like, well, you know, I'm like, I spent all this time like being like this, and just like feeling resentful about it, and be like, well, yes, but now I get to see this and have hope that if I'm being happy right now with how I am, then maybe in the future there's gonna be a chance for that. And also giving hope to other people who may be going through the same, and they're just so deep down the rabbit hole that you can't see light of, and it's like handing them over like flash, like, hey, this is the way, but it's gonna take you time, but you're gonna get there.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Like, knock on wood, whatever life may throw at us, it's like you'll manage. You'll manage, you know.
And sometimes you just don't feel like you can, but it's like you look back and it's not even like looking 10 years, but like you can literally look to 6 months ago and you're like, wait, it's like I've grown so much in this period of time. What makes me think that I can't? And it's like very fake it till you make it.
Okay.
And it was just, oh my God, advice from Tina, I swear to God. I don't know what I would do without the
With who?
Tina, that's the name of my therapist.
Oh,
yeah.
Tina, thank you, Tina.
Yeah, she's the best. And then like even to this point, like I'll like literally on the podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, thanks to Tina on this, and they're like, you just keep shouting her out, and I was like, or I will have something going on, and my boyfriend's like, thank God for Tina, dude.
Dude, I know therapists are heroes, like straight up.
Yes, and I was like, I don't know how like she does it, because it's like not only like dealing with your own stuff, but having to like put that aside for it so you can help someone else, dude. Props to them.
Props to them for sure. I lost my train of thought. I was gonna ask you something else.
But like back to like we were saying, like taking power in your story.
Oh yeah.
I was like, why you're doing what you're doing, like having the coffee chats again, like asking people to share, because you never know who might be on the other side of this train.
Yeah.
And you know, might find it helpful or.
Say hi to the other person on the screen, other screen.
Hi.
Who's ever watching this?
I was like, are you waiting?
What to Anna?
I know, that was like, what's happening? Like, is it gonna drop? But I'm saying it's like, you know, like I know I was always like so for shame, like for like literally crying over everything. Like I'll get annoyed, I'll cry, and get happy, and I cry. I'm like anxious, and I'll cry. So
dude, me too.
So it's like literally, and I'm like, okay, now I'm like, and I'll just joke about it, like I'll cope through dark humor, and I was like when I get stressed, like my shoulders and my neck hurt, and my mom freaking hates this. But whenever, and I'm like, I'll do it to my dad, and like, or someone like, can someone crack my neck? They're either gonna crack it or they're gonna break it. Either way, it's gonna solve the problem. So might as well. And my mom's like, can you just stop? And she's like, and I'm like, that's funny. She's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, you don't have any humor.
You know what? I bet your mom, like, you have your little banter, but I know deep down that your mom's probably like, dude, Muffet she's so wonderful.
I think I drive her nuts too much at this point.
She probably loves it. You spark her life. You know what I mean? Like, because then she wouldn't banter. I feel like when people banter back, I think that's their way of being like, all right, I can dance with you. I can dance with this, you know?
She gets pissed when I make that one. She's like, can you please stop? And I'm like, the day I can't joke about it, that's the day you need to be worried. If I can't joke about it, that's when this is getting serious.
To see it. Because me and my mom, we've had our share of things, and I'm like, then it comes to a point where you're just like, I don't know. I really do think it's liberating to just like, you know, just really embrace who you are and every part of who you are, and so. just you keep doing you, man.
I'm trying.
Keep it.
And it's like there's days where I can, there's ways where it's hard, and I'm like, and my therapist was like, okay, like why don't you choose like like a quote or just like lyrics from a song that you like and put it every day for your planner because I keep my planner
I like that.
And I'm like,
thanks, Tina.
She's the best. Forget about it. I don't know if she's gonna see this. Maybe she probably won't. She's the best.
Well, my therapists are cool too. Wait, since we're naming names, I had a therapist named Shakinta, so thank you to Shakinta, and another one currently, Lainey, amazing therapist. So since we're throwing names, I don't know if we're allowed to, right? They can't say our name, but we.
I think so.
Yeah.
The amount of times I see a meme and I'm like, I should DM this to her because she has like her practice account, and I'm like, that's probably like crossing a boundary. I'm just gonna screenshot it and I'll show it to her next time I'm in the session. So I have like this, and I was like, wait, I saw a meme about this. Let me show you. And I'm like,
you're so funny. You're so funny, dude.
And she's like,
all right, so 2 donuts down and 2 matcha drinks down. We've had quite a time tonight. Before we leave off here today, do you have any advice for anybody out there who is looking to be in this work in progress mode?
I think the biggest one, at least for me, is give yourself grace. Because just because you're working towards it doesn't mean every day is going to be perfect. Every day is going to be straight progress. There's days where you're going to have to take a couple steps back and look, okay, is what I'm doing right now, like, serving me? Am I being, like you might be doing, like, the work, but if you're being mean to yourself at the same time, it's just...
I like that.
Yeah, so give yourself grace. Just find something that works for you. What works for me might not work for someone else. I am very much type A. I need to keep my planner with me anywhere I go. And it's like, okay, I have my planner. If it's on my planner, it needs to also be on my Google Calendar. And I need to have it on my computer, on my phone, and on my tablet. And then I'll sync it with my watch. So it's like, will send me a reminder. And like, if I know that I'm distracted enough or going through stuff, I will forget to eat. So it's like, okay, I have my alarms. If I'm feeling frustrated, it's easy to try to overwork something, and sometimes it's just better to step away. Mm-hmm. So like set the reminders, like, my break's coming up, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm just gonna go for a walk. And especially right now that it's summer, it's just not the weather to be outside. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna walk around reception, go say hi to some of my other coworkers, or just like literally work in circles or stretch. Or if I'm tired and it's like, okay, like I have stuff to do on my lunch, guess I'll try to run errands if I'm on my lunch. I was like, you know what, no, I'm tired, I'll do it after work. And I will literally, like, this has happened to work, and like people will walk by and I'm like knocked out asleep on the floor of my office.
Girl.
And it's like, and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just taking a nap, can you please go away?
Move
along, turn off the lights, don't turn it on, just move along.
Yeah, I love it because you're like, these are things that you have figured out, like, works for you. And like for me, this matcha drink is not working for me. That's what I've learned tonight.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
It worked for Anna though.
And I liked it, but definitely I did not. In fact, it's making my stomach not so good.
And
so,
they do say it's good for digestion.
So with that, cheers. Wish me luck tonight. Cheers. I don't know how my stomach's gonna feel, but
you'll be fine.
But thank you so much for coming, and
thank you for making the space for me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, smell food.
Oh. I'm like, I'm not accidentally stabbing you with a butterfly, am I?
You're good. Cheers.
Cheers.